What up? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, friends of Princess It's your boy Tone 202 coming at you one more game. And this goes out to Mark Howell, who, oh boy, requested me to do a video on the sports I played in high school. I did not play in college. So I'm going to make this video now. I think he specifically wanted football, but I'm going to try to do some explaining and, to lead up to why football was definitely my choice sport. Uh, Mostly because I wasn't a guy who could do all sports. I'm talented, but I'm very one directional. So if you put me on a field and tell me to run straight, I'm pretty good at just running straight. But if you tell me to zigzag and all that stuff, it's like I start to think, why am I doing that? I could just run from point A to point B. For these reasons, basketball was not my favorite sport, and I don't have a problem with coordination, but I had a problem with acceleration. When it came to basketball, I would get angry because I just sucked at it. I didn't take the time to develop a J. I didn't have the fast twitch muscles to get down the court with the ball and the coordination that you needed to just outrun somebody with the ball. I was more aggressive than you should be. I was like a Metal World Peace on steroids. You know what I mean? I would eventually turn into Mean Joe Green on the basketball court. I even had a hard time shooting layups. I was more of a distance runner than a sprinter. So, when it came to the jumpers and all that, I tried to develop a jumper, and it turned out to be okay. But being that I was tall, people would pick me. I'm 6'2". And they'd be like, yeah, we want him. And I'd be like, well, I suck. I would go up and rebound and come down. I was like the worm when it came to rebounding. I was uncoordinated, but I could rebound. But I would go up there with like all my strength, like, give me the ball. Get over here. That type of thing. Any hoozle. I played up to high school, but I eventually quit because I was basically doing it for conditioning. Like I said, I was more into running. So track. Let's go there. In my school, in my conference of schools, I was a contender when it came to. I was a contender when it came to the 400. Whenever somebody was about to run up against somebody else in our school, we already knew who we were running up against, and our coach would be like, "This is this person's ability." Your name would also be in the paper. So if Rochester was about to run up against New Brighton, I would look to see who was running for Rochester. Now, Rochester had the fastest guy in the state at that time in my race, so I knew it wasn't even a competition. I was running, plus we were running on gravel fields. Rochester was running on gravel fields. Some fields were, already done, but both of our tracks were gravel. And as a matter of fact, we didn't even have one. So we ran in the parking lot. Nonetheless, so I would get dusted when it came to the fastest guy in the league, but I was faster than the average guy. So I had a name for myself. I ended up going to some invitationals. I did okay. Fastest time in high school, 54. However, I also turned out to be half decent at the 800 because our 800 guy was sick, but he showed up. But he couldn't run. He was hurt, Johnny Camp. So Johnny couldn't run, but his fastest time was 2:07. My coach was like, look, can you run a race just to get the points? He's like, you don't even have to win. He really wanted me to run a half decent split time. But the thing about my coach that he noticed was he never had to tell me to practice because I would run to practice and I'd run from practice. And even in it was time for football, I would run to practice and from practice, and I lived a ways away. And my coaches would just see this. They'd be like, okay, this dude is running uphill like it's nothing. Like it was nothing for me to do. So Sheffield, my coach, knew what he was observing when he asked me to run it. Plus, the other guys, they just wasn't going to run it. So what Sheffield ended up doing was, whenever somebody wouldn't show up, he'd be like, "How can you run this?" Even if it was the 100 against the fastest guy in the state, and I got blown out. But he knew I would run it and get points. Sometimes I would even, get second or third or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But my fastest time in 100, I was super slow. I ran a 12:1 as a senior. That is slow. My fastest time in the 200 was 24 seconds. My fastest time in the 400 was 54. No, I broke 53 once. Yeah, my fastest time in the 400 was 53. And I had a 52 split once. I ran the 800 in 2:07. Yeah, that day I forgot who we were running against, where our guy was there, but he couldn't run the last leg. So I ran this when they found out that I could run that far that fast. I got the baton. We were way behind. And I took off running, and I caught up to the guy. And we had 2 laps. And I caught up to the guy pretty much before the first lap was over. So I ran the first lap in 59 seconds. I came around, boom, second lap, 2:07, and they were like, okay, you just ran, my fastest time. And I ran the mile in 4:38. Okay, now let's get on into football. Football, I played from when I was a little kid all the way up until, like I said, high school. I used to be on the field screaming, "Woo! Woo!" like I was Ric Flair or something. Nonetheless, when I played football, I used to be a headhunter because I was an angry child. I was angry because I was poor. And all the things that go with being a poor kid, just made me angry. And, I got picked on a lot. I got teased a lot. And football was the one thing that I could do to get back at the people teasing me, even against the racist people, because I ended up transferring to a white school, which is New Brighton in Beaver Falls. And immediately the racism was just right there. I ended up getting into a fight 2 years in a row with some racist dude named Chuck, big 6'4" white dude. On my team, mind you. he was a offensive end, and I was playing, practicing opposite of him. And he was a defensive end. And I basically ran around him. He was big, but he was slow. And I was going out for a pass, and he held me. I was like, you can't hold me. He's like, I didn't hold you. And then he did it again. And, nonetheless, but the year before, when I was a junior, he did some old crazy stuff in the locker room. He came at me like I was getting ready to get in the shower, right? And he said something crazy to me out of line. And I was like, okay, fine. I don't have no clothes on. And you want to, and he pushed me. And then he had a friend with him, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to go and get in the shower. So I was like, all right, that happened. So I get in the shower, he comes into the shower, him and his boy, like, what's up? And I knew that I couldn't take a fight in the shower. I knew that I was going to come out heavily damaged. So I just was like, all right, dude, it's all you. Because his friend was in there too. He's had two other people with him. I said, it's all you. I let it go. But when he turned around and walked out, I walked out behind him. And once I got off of that slippery floor, mind you, I'm still butt ass naked. Once I got off that slippery floor, I let him know pretty much I was behind him. I was like, what's up? He turned around. He's like, what's up? And he pushed me again. And I punched him in the face so fast that he went into shock. And I just don't think he was expecting to get hit back. Nonetheless, I hope Chuck and his family is doing well. But for some reason, Chuck really thought that he was just going to pick on me. So like I said, I was just an angry person. Even when I was playing in inner city schools, I got picked on a lot. So football was a good outlet for me. It was a great outlet for me. Anyways, my high school team in my last year, we went 6-4. We were a powerful team, but we were not powerful enough to get past one Riverside. We couldn't get past Riverside because Riverside had a running back that was just a slippery dude. And he was good, and we knew about them. So basically, when we went up against them, they beat us 26-6. I mean, they cleaned our clock. And during that year, we were being coached by a guy who used to play professional football for the Dolphins. We called him Max. He's a big dude, used to be a lineman. And anyway, we had Coach Yoshida. Coach Yoshida was a cool dude. Now, before that, there was some other coaches that I wasn't under them. Well, yeah, I wasn't under them because they pretty much got fired from the coaching position. And so we were known at that time. If you went up against us, we had a couple powerhouse players, and it's a good chance you were going to lose. But like I said, we went 6-4, so we were contenders. We had some really, really, really huge games. They were pretty much televised. You know what I mean? I don't have any of my tapes and stuff like that. I don't have a bunch of pictures, Mark. Sorry to show you. But, so for the position I played, I was not very fast, but I was strong. So, I played a running back position, which was a fullback, because I was notorious for, hitting people helmet to helmet, until I ran up against Brian Chismar, who went that dude was something. He ended up playing for Penn State. But anyways, I was known for hitting people helmet to helmet. And I would usually win that battle, but every now and then you catch a burner. And if you know what that is, it's pretty much you can paralyze yourself, and the burner just goes down the side of your neck. One game, probably the biggest game I ever played, we were playing against Southside, and they put me in as nose guard for some reason. So the defense or the offense didn't understand the formation that we were in. And it kind of lined us up man to man. So I was right over the nose, and I noticed that this big pork chop eating white boy had me by about 30 pounds. And I was no small potatoes. It's like maybe, 185, 190. I was bench pressing 225 probably about 5-6 times in high school easily. So, I was no weakling, but I knew that this kid could probably, if I just went toe to toe with him, he would have probably, just pinned me some kind of way and removed me. And I didn't want that. So I did one of the Mean Joe Green swim moves on him. He was bigger than me, but he wasn't as fast as I was. And in that league, I don't think he was used to facing somebody who was quicker than him. So basically, what I did was when the ball was snapped, I faked one way and went the other, and he automatically went the first way. And I got in the backfield, and I was able to get 8 consecutive hits, which broke a high school record. I was the first man to the ball or to the person with the ball. I had a fumble recovery. I got injured on that fumble recovery. Got the wind knocked out of me. Had a fumble recovery. I had a great game. The next day, the most popular cheerleader actually that night, she was looking at me like, hey, nice game. And I was looking at her like, hey, no way. She was sexy though. But I was like, nah, I'm good. Anyways, so I also played defensive end. Like I said, I wasn't fast, but I was strong. I was on the receiving team. We had a really fast guy on our team named was Benny Haddix. He ended up playing college ball for Slippery Rock. I had a letter to go to Slippery Rock, but I ignored the letter. I ended up going into the service once I got out of school about a year later. I ended up going to service when I was 19. Went to the Army. Anyways, we also had a dynamite tailback named Tim McCutcheon. This dude was something. I thought if anybody could go to college and go pro, it was Tim McCutcheon. He was something else. I admired him. The chicks liked him. He was faster than me. He was running about a 22-200. He was faster than me. He was just a cool dude. He only did one thing that I didn't like. He hit one of our players in practice full speed. He hit Johnny full speed. And Johnny was a quarterback, and Coach Ishida told him, don't hit him. And he did it anyway. And I wanted to rip his head off because that kid, Johnny, went down and he nearly broke his ribs. Other than that, offensive line. I didn't play offensive line. I just played defensive line. But, I was a running back, a nose guard for one game because the next game, Riverside scouted me out, and they buried me. They double-teamed me. Coach Max was like, you don't want to play? And I was like, Coach, they're double-teaming me. Like, both of these kids are bigger than me. They weighed more than me. And they're double-teaming me. So they obviously saw what I did. They scouted the game. So they took me out of that position, period. And, so that was me in high school football. I could throw the ball, but I was not accurate, so quarterback was not going to happen. I was no good at being a receiver because pretty much I just get burned down the field. I just wasn't fast enough when it came to accelerating off the ball. I was definitely on the kicking team because I like to just run down and just hit whoever. I didn't even care if they didn't have the ball. I just wanted to hit somebody. Let's see. I lettered as a junior and a senior, and that's it. So I hope that satiates your curiosity about me in football, Mark. And I don't play today. Of course, I'm 50 years old, but I can still throw the ball around 50 yards, probably more than that if I practice. So I can still throw a ball pretty far, but I was just not accurate. Anyways, it's your boy Tone 202.